Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Fora's weekly Friday destination debrief. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Lonergan. I am Fora HQ's client development lead and a member of our in-house travel advisor team. We are going to keep the spirit going today and get our voodoo on. We're going to take a trip down the Big Muddy to the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. And I am joined today by Fora travel advisor extraordinaire, Alyssa Manning. Alyssa lives in New Orleans, so who better to help guide us through the city? Okay, here's a little bit of what we'll cover today. We've got some marketing materials for our Fora advisors we're going to talk about in just a minute, but just a little table of contents here for what we will cover. About those marketing materials, these are provided to you if you are a Fora advisor. They live in our advisor portal, as will this deck after the session. And you'll also get an email with links to all of these marketing materials. So you'll have the cheat sheet for hotels, where to stay and what to do. You'll have a sample itinerary, Instagram templates, magic article. This is a great marketing resource that HQ provides to you. It is content written by our in-house editorial team that you're able to personalize when you have an advisor profile on foratravel.com, MailChimp template, and Google Map. So again, these will all be in portal and you'll get an email with links to them if you are a Fora advisor. Why New Orleans? Why the heck not New Orleans? If you know, you know. If you've been, you've probably been more than once. This is not a city you go to and once and check it off your list. You've probably gone back multiple times, or if you haven't gone yet, your first time will probably be first of several or many. New Orleans is great. It's so much fun. It's got everything that we travel for. You've got history, you've got arts and culture, you've got an amazing culinary scene, the music, Jazz Fest. It's birthplace of jazz and ragtime. And it's got sports, obviously. You've got the Saints, you've got LSU. It really does have everything that we look for in a great travel destination. Clients to book here. Anybody who has a pulse? No, kidding. Anybody who likes to have fun, it's great for couples. It's great for bachelorettes and bachelors, music aficionados, people who travel, mainly for food. Really, it's got something for everybody as a destination. How long to stay? You can go down for a couple nights, a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend. If you go down for 4 nights, you really have a chance to experience a lot of what the destination has to offer. So speaking of getting there, location and getting there, I'm going to kick it over to Alyssa to take us through this.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about my new home city and my favorite city in the country, New Orleans. The airport here is the Louis Armstrong. It is a award-winning airport. As soon as you step out of the plane, you're going to get a little taste of New Orleans culture. There are fabulous restaurants and bars right in the airport, and also you'll even find live music, which is really fun. You'll hear the sound of a jazz band right when you walk off the plane. Getting around the city, downtown in the French Quarter, very walkable. You do want to be careful for anybody who has mobility issues. There is the sidewalks, the streets here can be quite uneven. Also down in the quarter, rideshare. Rideshare is really easy, Uber and Lyft across town. If you want to get out of the quarter, our streetcars are really loved. You can download the La Pass app and you can easily purchase tickets to the streetcar or the bus system. It's a very easy way and a fun way to see the city. I was on the streetcar a couple days ago and there was a couple in town who said they had just bought streetcar passes and just rode it up through the Garden District to the end and then rode it back into the French Quarter as just a way to get off their feet and see the city. And then when to visit. The best time I would say is now through December and March to May. You're going to get much cooler temps. It's still 80 degrees and, a little bit humid here right now, but it's still a much more enjoyable time to be outside. Mardi Gras season is typically mid-February to March. This year, it's running February 27th to March 2nd. It's not just one parade, not one day. It's a season here. And then Summer is going to get really hot and humid. It's a much slower time of the year. Some of the businesses, some of the restaurants close for summer. So that's something to keep in mind. The hotels are definitely a much lower rate. So it's great for budget travelers, but be mindful that August and September can be hurricane season for us.
Thank you, Alyssa. And speaking of climate, I think we have a bit of New Orleans climate here in New York this week. We were talking about that before we started. It's 80 degrees and humid here, which is really unbearable for me, as everybody at HQ knows. But we're doing our best to cope with it. What's new and noteworthy? The first section here are top hotels and resorts booked in New Orleans. So you can see the top five there: the Roosevelt, Virgin Hotel, Four Seasons. We'll talk about that in a bit. Hotel Monteleone, and the Eliza Jane, which is a really wonderful boutique property in the city. And then what's new, what's recently reopened, what's coming soon. I love this name, the Dewdrop Inn Hotel and Lounge. Do drop in here sometime. Opened this past February. The Celestine is one of our advisor favorites. Nobu Hotel Caesars. This is opening, we think, we're told sometime early in 2025. This is in the complex that's right across from the Four Seasons. So that will be a really exciting development. And then the Arrive New Orleans, April 2025 in Bywater. We're really looking forward to this one too. Arrive Hotels is part of the Pele Society group. And I'm sure many advisors on the call have booked some of their properties. They already have really great hotels in Austin, Memphis, Palm Springs, for example, to name a few. These are all part of our Fora Reserve program also, which is our agency's own preferred hotel partner program. And we hope that the Arrive New Orleans property will be part of that too. So lots of great things recently and to look forward to there. So, New Orleans 101, we are going to talk about each of these a little bit more detail on what to do. But the French Quarter, obviously, one of the main historic quarters there, and tourism draws in the city, lively music, restaurants, bars, cafes, Mardi Gras, the heart of Mardi Gras. You've got the Garden District. Alyssa mentioned, people riding the streetcars up and down, a great way to see that. You've got Marigny and Bywater, some really great neighborhoods just outside the French Quarter. And the Warehouse District, too. Warehouse District, I don't know if the Meatpacking District in New York would be a good analogy, but the Warehouse District, think of former industrial area that is now full of cool bars and restaurants and everything that New Orleans is about. Sample itinerary, we're going to kind of breeze through this a little bit. This is based on a 4-day visit to the city. Obviously, depending on the dates you're traveling, the days of the week that you're going to be there, there's going to be different opportunities available to you. So we won't spend too much time here. Although, Alyssa, on day 2 here, we mentioned a swamp tour. Can I plug your Halloween
Yeah.
costume?
Yes, for Halloween we did Lana Del Rey and her new swamp tour guide husband.
Yes. Well, we don't even know his name. He's just the swamp tour guide husband. I'm sure somebody can drop it in the chat if you know his
Jeremy.
name. Jeremy. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I don't know his name. But yeah, swamp tour, great thing to do while you're in New Orleans. And obviously, Lana Del Rey was a big fan of her swamp tour. What else do we talk about? Cooking class, Magazine Street, Frenchman Street for a little more often beaten path jazz, Riverboat Cruise, and Lafayette Cemetery. Very historic cemetery. Think, Père Lachaise in Paris. Lafayette is in that same vein, I would say. Okay, and here we go. What to do? Garden District tour is a great one to do. Obviously, that's going to involve the streetcars touring these amazing Victorian homes there and gardens. The swamp tour we've talked about already. Food and cocktail tours, essential to the culture there. Music Preservation Hall is, an iconic institution down in New Orleans. And if you've never heard the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, I would encourage everybody to stream them on Spotify, go see them live. They do tour also, so they might come to your city. I've seen them here in New York, and it's one of my favorite concerts.
Must.
Yeah, must. Absolutely.
Absolutely must.
Continuing on Magazine Street, great for shopping. We mentioned the cemetery here, Frenchman Street and Marigny for great, smaller scale music scene. Bourbon Street, of course, probably don't have to describe that in too much detail. The streetcars and City Park is a really nice landscape there in city center. Okay, dining in New Orleans. I'm going to kick this over to Alyssa because I think she's got her finger on the pulse much more than I do here.
Yeah. You cannot, it's hard to find a bad meal in New Orleans. I'm yet to find a restaurant that I would not return to. The food here is so good. And you'll find it's a fusion of like Caribbean, French cuisine. We have a lot of Vietnamese influence here. So on the top of the list, of course, is Commander's Palace. It is a iconic restaurant here in New Orleans. It's in the Garden District, very close to the Lafayette Cemetery. So it is definitely a great place for brunch. Must have reservations. Next is Dakar. It is a newer restaurant, just got the James Beard Award for Best New Restaurant, I believe 2024. It is a Singalese 7-course meal. It's very limited seating at that restaurant. So you have to have a reservation to get in, but rave reviews on the food. And then on this list, my personal favorite is Seaworthy. It is such a vibe. You go in, it feels like New Orleans. It's cozy. The service is top notch. The food is so good. Get oysters here and cocktails. It's one of those moments where you like sit down with dinner with your friends and you don't even notice the servers are in the room. Just get so enveloped in the vibe there. And then Mahoney's. Mahoney's is, my husband says it is his absolute favorite po' boy in the city. I think that everybody in the city has their own favorite spot, but Mahoney's is on Magazine in the Garden District. Another fantastic restaurant. And cocktail bars. We are a fantastic, fabulous cocktail city. There are so many cocktails here that like have originated in New Orleans. The Pimm's Cup, the Sazerac, the Gin Fizz. There's just a number of cocktails that all started in New Orleans. So the top of this list is a carousel bar. It is a 25, I believe it's a 25 seat carousel in the lobby of the Hotel Monteleone. It's such a fun experience. It's great for, to put on your itinerary for bachelorette parties or like mom and daughter groups. It's a very fun vibe. Canaan Table is another, it's a very Caribbean influenced bar, a ton of fun. Cure on this list. Also, it's outside of the quarter, it's in Uptown, but worth getting out of the downtown area to go to. Fabulous cocktails. They do a daily punch special. And so it's just whatever the, mixologists have conjured up for the day.
Sorry to interrupt. You can do this, but I just want to put in a brief plug for the Sazerac cocktail,
Oh,
which, in my very humble opinion, is the undisputed king of cocktails on planet Earth. So, and New Orleans is the home of it. So, the Sazerac bar, every time I go, that's a must stop. Really, the world's best cocktail. With all due respect to everybody else. There we go. That's all I wanted to say, Alyssa. Take it away. Thank you.
No, we're always on the hunt for our favorite Sazerac in the city. So
Yeah.
right now it's Peychaud's, which is in the Celestine. That's we've talked about earlier today. But
Love it. Finger on the pulse. There you go, everybody. Peychaud's and the Celestine for the best Sazerac in NOLA. Love it.
fantastic. Advisor recommended restaurants in New Orleans. So this is a poll of restaurants that our local, our advisors at Fora have recommended. Galatoire's is it's a high class button up jacket. New Orleans is a very mostly casual city. Anything and everything goes. You'll see all types of dress and undress. But Galatoire's is a place where you're going to want to put on a jacket. We do have a few spots like that, but it's absolutely worth it to go out and have a nice dinner. Turkey and the Wolf is definitely has rising fame, a great place for lunch, sandwich joint. And then I think what else? Peche's seafood is also very well known, like seafood restaurant here. So it's a great list.
Yeah. And special thanks to Fora advisors Greg Randy and Alicia Austin, mentioned at the bottom here, for some of these recommendations. All right, we're going to get into some of the hotels now. Great hotel scene going on in New Orleans these days. And let's start with one of the biggest and the best, Four Seasons Hotel New Orleans. As I mentioned, it's a big hotel. I think it's 300 plus rooms. You do have some large. It's New Orleans is a convention destination, obviously, and you do have some larger hotels there. So, Four Seasons is a big one, but they certainly don't sacrifice on service and quality. It is arguably the best hotel in the city. Great riverside location, great spa, obviously great restaurants in it. Concierge team is really wonderful there, as is usually the case at Four Seasons properties. Obviously, for Four Advisors, our agency is a Four Seasons Hotels preferred partner. The hotel is also a member of the Virtuoso Consortium, so we do get our typical Four Seasons preferred partner benefits when you book there.
I'm just going to add at the Four Seasons, we had a really fun experience there. The Four Seasons team hosted a few of us advisors, and they will do this for your guests. They did an oyster and wine pairing at their restaurant, which is a fabulous meal to be had anyways, but we're overlooking the Mississippi River, getting a little, a oyster shucking presentation paired with wine. So special. And they'll do these kind of experiences for your hotel guests. I think they also have a seaplane and oyster experience they can schedule for your guests. They do a streetcar and jazz. So they'll arrange a private streetcar with a jazz trio to
Mhm.
go up and down through the Garden District. So they're such a special team here. Maison Médière. This was formerly the Maison de la Luz. This is such a fun, special hideaway property. It really feels like when you're stepping into this hotel that you just are stepping into kind of a quieter space out of the lively neighborhood of the quarter in the city. In this hotel, it is now part of the Hyatt brand, now under their umbrella. And this building was originally the City Hall Annex. And so you'll kind of see that like historic high ceilings, tall windows, really beautiful space. In the lobby, they have a restaurant for hotel guests only. And they also have this little hidden speakeasy that is you can only access through the lobby of the hotel. I think it seats like 6 people, and it is connected to the bar next door, which was the former library for the city hall. And that bar was called Bar Merlu. They've changed it to Bar Midier, and there's like a little light that the guests can like turn on a little light and let the bartenders next door know that they're ready for their next drink. So very special place. The decor is beautiful. We kind of chimed it as like the well-traveled ant. It's just beautiful antiques, but not like your grandmother's antiques. So very, very fun stay.
I'm sold. It sounds
Yeah.
really civilized. Turn on the little light and get your next cocktail delivered.
Yeah, the service there is top notch. They like the hotel guests turn their key in at the front desk when they come in, so that the staff is very aware of like when the guests are in. So you're not going to get interrupted in your room. There's not going to be a knock on the door while you're in your room. And I think this is Henley's favorite too. And
I
New
think
Orleans.
you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, the Eliza Jane. I love this hotel for it is a more kind of a budget friendly option, I would say. Also part of the Hyatt brand. This is the Eliza Jane is in a former print factory. And actually that's where the name came from it's named after the woman who produced the first print newspaper in the United States. So I
Oh,
think
cool.
her name was Eliza Jane. So It's a historic building. It is in that warehouse district that we were talking about earlier. So it has a very unique architecture inside. There's a great bar in the lobby, fabulous restaurant on property. They have bikes in the lobby, which for guests to borrow. So that's really fun. And then Christmas time, they go all out on decorations. I think this is definitely one of our favorite hotels for Christmas decorations during the holiday season. And it's very walkable to the canal streetcar. So you're still like, even though you're in the warehouse district, still very accessible to the French Quarter and all the action. It just again gives you kind of that little quieter retreat.
I love this, Alyssa. I love the local intel on the best Christmas decorations, Christmas scene in the city. That's great. Thank you. Next up, what do we got? We've got the Kimpton Hotel Fontenot. Kimptons, I'm like Mr. Kimpton these days. I love Kimptons all over the place. And New Orleans is another great one. If you think about what the brand is doing in Europe, Tokyo, Kimpton Tokyo is one of our favorites, one of our very first FAMs here at Fora, familiarization trips, excuse me, included the Kimpton Armory out in Bozeman. So the Kimpton brand, if you're not familiar with it, you should get familiar with it because they're doing great things both domestically and internationally. And the Kimpton Fontenot here in New Orleans is certainly in keeping with that. Location is great. You're a block or so in from the river, close to the Four Seasons, across the street from, we mentioned the Nobu Hotel opening soon. This is great. It's Kimpton is IHG's one of their lifestyle brands. And while, I don't always love that term for hotels, hopefully it gives you an indication of what you're getting. Luxury, but much more informal, casual, understated, not stuffy at all. It's a great hotel. Peacock Bar here. If you go on the hotel's website, take a look at the Peacock Bar. It is super cool. So definitely a great option. You can see the perks that we get there for our Fora advisors. So definitely one to keep in mind. And as Alyssa mentioned, for Eliza Jane, at a good price point here. Next one, Peter and Paul, also a great option at a affordable price point. As you can imagine from the hotel's name and the religious overtones, this is another historic property, a hotel that has been converted from a church and rectory. And so you've got that kind of design elements to it, great restoration, period details, and just a really great option to know about for a boutique hotel in New Orleans. And I mentioned at a good price point. I checked this morning, actually, in advance of this. And by the way, Michelin Key Hotel. I didn't know that until the other day. But a Michelin Key Hotel, I checked weeknight rates in mid-November for $225 a night starting at. So this is an example of the really great value for the money that you can get in some of these boutique properties in New Orleans these days.
I was just going to add to that. The Hotel Peter and Paul is walking distance to Frenchman Street. So, again, like you still have access to, there's Frenchman, tons of local shops, jazz clubs, and they have a nightly art bazaar that's like so fun. It's great, great way to take a piece of New Orleans home with you. So grab a little piece of art at that nightly bazaar.
Love it. Love it. Advisor recommended hotels. So these are, we sometimes call these honorable mentions. Hotel Mazarin in the French Quarter, Hotel Monteleone, also French Quarter. Let's see, this is part of Preferred Group. So Preferred Platinum Perks for advisors. That's great. Hotel St. Vincent is another one. Thank you to Gray Grandy and Alicia Austin again for these. The Celestine Virgin Windsor Court. Alyssa, anything you want to say about these? I know the Celestine is pretty popular among advisors these days.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned. That's the Peychaud's and the lobby of the Celestine. It's a fantastic hotel. The Windsor Court is, I would say, second to the Four Seasons, is also just like a classic New Orleans experience. They have a fantastic jazz bar in, I think, on one of the floors of the hotel. So, and then the Virgin is just a fun brand, and they really embrace the New Orleans. It's a great partner with New Orleans culture, because New Orleans is like art and celebration and fun, and Virgin is like such is that
Yeah.
by itself. So it's a
Yeah. It's
really great experience. They have a great restaurant in the lobby, and this is also really great for events. They have a ton of event space. So if you have clients who are
mm,
looking to host a meeting, this is a great spot.
that's great. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. A great marriage of hotel brand and city personality. I can totally see that here.
Signature dishes. Back to the food. I mean, like I said before, it's hard to find a bad meal, but some of our favorite signature dishes here in New Orleans is oysters. Our favorite place is Superior Oysters in the Garden District. It's on the trolley line. Happy hour is worth the trolley ride, let me tell you. Um, get a dozen raw oysters, sit at the oyster bar, watch them shuck, and they have their happy hour drink is a frozen French 75, another New Orleans classic cocktail. So good. Of course, beignets. Everybody knows Cafe du Monde. It's the famous beignet shop and down in the quarter. Cocktails where, you know, there's a fantastic ton of fantastic cocktail bars across the city. Po' boys, the muffaletta, and gumbo and jambalaya, and then snowballs. This is something I learned about having moved to New Orleans. Is of course being a hot and humid place, we really love the snowballs here. There and Hanson's is the absolute local favorite snowball shop, and there's even like artisanal pop up snowball shops here. And this is another like locals will argue which one's the best. Hanson's is probably our favorite right now.
I have a question, Alyssa. You mentioned Cafe du Monde. Is there is there chicory coffee? Is that as controversial as it seems in my mind? Where do you come down on that? Because I am like I can't do it, but it seems to be very well loved and a good seller for them. So what's the deal with chicory coffee from Cafe?
Yeah, so chicory is a root that I think it was like a cheaper way to make coffee. And I wouldn't say it's my go-to. And because maybe I need the good stuff. I need the like heavy caffeinated, powerful stuff. But I do love at Cafe Du Monde, they have a frozen drink, a blended frozen drink that is chicory based.
Okay.
And I do love that.
All right.
So
Good to know. I think maybe it's an acquired taste and I got to give it another chance. So
yeah,
we'll see.
try the frozen version. See if
Okay. Yeah.
on a hot day, let me tell you, the
Yeah.
frozen version, it hits.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah. And I would say for beignets, Cafe Du Monde is probably the most famous. There is Cafe Beignet, which is this really cute little shop tucked away down in the quarter. And then we really also love the Vintage, which is on Magazine Street. So if you're looking for beignets and don't want to get caught up in the crowds of the French Quarter, check out the Vintage on Magazine Street for fantastic beignets.
Love this. Finger on the pulse.
And need to know New Orleans, we're a Southern city. We're all about, hey, y'all, smiles and welcome. And this is also very much, like I said before, a city that's very welcoming and accepting. Anything goes. It's very fun walking around the city yesterday and just seeing like running some shopping errands and seeing people in full costumes, adults in full costumes, picking up groceries. But that could just be a Tuesday in New Orleans. It's not just it's not just Halloween. And then yeah, just your standard travel tips, be mindful of when you're walking down the corridor where you are and always zipper purse and don't over imbibe too heavily. So, famous films, TV shows, and books. This is a fun list. King Creole. I'm originally from Tupelo, the birthplace of Elvis, and King Creole. We love our, Elvis movie that was filmed down in French Quarter. So that's a really fun one. Of course, Interview with a Vampire. Anne Rice is, a famously author from New Orleans. The Prince and the Frog, the Disney movie. I think that just this past year they rolled out at Disneyland. They rolled out a new Princess and Frog exhibit ride. So that's really fun. And of course, we're a town known for its history and some of it's spooky. So the American Horror Story is a great series. Cultural celebrations and events. Of course, like we were talking about earlier, probably most famously known for Mardi Gras, but like I said, it's not just a singular parade, one day event. It is an entire season. Everybody's already prepping for Mardi Gras, getting their costumes ready. Walked past a warehouse on our dog walk a couple days ago and saw someone, like working on their parade float. So it is a very busy time of year. You want to book early, but it's a fantastic, fantastic time of year to be here. There's parades all over the city. There's also Crew of Boo, which is our Halloween parade. It's a couple weeks before Halloween. So that's something worth noting, that if you want to get the full New Orleans Halloween experience. And then, of course, there's Jazz Fest. It's two weekends and fantastic. It's in a very hot time of part of the year, but absolutely worth it. It's again just a celebration of New Orleans, all things New Orleans, culture and food and music. A really great time. And then Celebration in the Oaks is the kind of holiday Christmas special event.
Very cool. Super Bowl. We got to talk about the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl this year, February 9th at the Caesar Superdome. Let's see. We were focusing on New Orleans this week, and we had a partner webinar the other day with the Four Seasons. They're already sold out, and they're already sold out with a 4-night minimum and all reservations fully prepaid and non-refundable. So I think that gives you a sense of what the demand is like for the Super Bowl in New Orleans this year. If you have clients that are interested in it, you want to be getting on that right now if you're not already. Accommodations are going to be very full. They're going to have these minimum stays. They're likely going to be non-refundable. All the things that the Four Seasons is doing, not just that one property. So we do have some ticket vendors that we work with. I haven't gotten too up to speed on that yet, but if you are a Fora advisor, the ticket packages may be commissionable. So keep that in mind. Alyssa, anything else we should add about the Super Bowl? I'm sure it's a crazy time to be there. Congestion, parties, everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously just plan ahead, plan ahead, plan ahead. A lot of the hotels are blocked out. So if you definitely want to keep your eye on like openings when they will release some of these. Some of the sponsors come in and block out the hotels. So I think in the next couple of weeks, we should see some availability open up, hopefully. But go ahead and grab them. And
Yeah.
I would say trip insurance on this one. So, since all of these are going to be non-refundable rates.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and that's a great point too. If you are looking for clients for hotel space and you're not seeing it at the moment, that doesn't mean it won't become available as some of these blocks are released. So yeah, good to check back in the coming weeks. I've been there, by the way, just in a normal, NFL season Sunday, and it's, I mean,
So
the Saints fans they are very enthusiastic for sure. Listen, do you want to do these regional trips to add on, and then
yeah.
I'll talk about the next slide?
Yeah, so I love these options. I especially love, a lot of people do New Orleans at the tail end of like kind of a southern music exploration road trip. A lot of people start in Nashville, come down through Memphis, then go to Clarksdale and end up in here in New Orleans as part of a kind of a southern music trail. So those are some of those that are mentioned here. Clarksdale being just 4 hours by car, Memphis 5.5 hours, and then Nashville 7. So that makes a nice little several day road trip. Lafayette is 2 hours from here. It is definitely supposed to have its own like very special, unique Creole centered cuisine. So I've even, I have a few people in the area, our friends that are from Lafayette, and they're like, that's where you get the good Cajun food. So,
Lafayette Pride, I love it.
right. Yeah. Dangerous words, of course, to be said, but there is a little bit of, and then, yeah. So New Orleans is also a cruise port. So we have we have that going on here in the city. It's fun to hear the the boats toot their horns on the Mississippi River. So it's a great destination for departing departing
Yeah.
for there's a
It's
lot of
great.
cruising.
Yeah. Pre and post cruise. It's a great point. I don't really think of it that way, but you're right. Awesome. Okay. And then, yes, we do a slide at the end of these each week. If not New Orleans, then where? So, I started off saying if you've been to New Orleans once, probably not your only time. So maybe you've been there a few times already and you're thinking about someplace else that might be in the same vein, but different. So we've got a few other southern cities on here. We've got Savannah, Georgia, Austin. I guess yes. Picture this boot factory, cowboy boot shop. Austin, obviously, live music capital. I guess they call it the live music capital of the world, but famous for its live music and festivals, South by Southwest. Obviously, really great food scene there. So a lot of the same things that you would go to New Orleans to seek out, you have in Austin. Charleston, historic South Carolina. I think of the Garden District in New Orleans, and I am reminded of Charleston a bit. And then Key West. I mean, Key West is funky, right? So if you're into the quirkiness and the kind of offbeat sensibilities of New Orleans, then Key West could be for you too. So keep that in mind. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And again, for all of our advisors, thank you, everyone.